The Knight is one of Dead by Daylight's most unique killers, a walking 4-man gank squad who can send his guards to chase survivors, defend and patrol areas, and break objects. A killer who can do all of this surely must be pretty good and fun to play, right? Well, despite all of that, the Knight is a killer who not many survivors like going against, and he's at best a C-tier killer. But what makes the Knight so bad? Let's start with what the Knight does. The Knight can enter the Spirit Realm. Very important that you keep this part in mind. When you're in the Spirit Realm, you can send out a green orb that becomes invisible after a certain distance, and it will create a path. When you finish using your power, one of 3 guards will spawn: the Carnifex, the Assassin, or the Jailer, which rotate in that order and will follow the path from where you finished to where it started. The Carnifex will break stuff the fastest and will chase the longest amount of time, the Assassin chases the fastest and applies deep wound on hit, and the Jailer has the largest detection range and longest patrol time. Once the guard has been placed, they take a second to wake up and search their surroundings. If a survivor is spotted or a loud noise is played, they'll begin hunting that survivor. When a hunt starts, a sound will play and a banner will drop, indicated by this sound. If a survivor picks up this standard, they gain endurance and haste. This is a killer with so many tools at his disposal for so many different instances. A power for breaking stuff, being able to chase 2 survivors at once, deep wound, and can defend an area? How could they be bad? He's basically a whole team put into one killer. Well, let's start with his power and how clunky it is. Notice how I emphasized the Spirit Realm. That's because while you're using it, you cannot see anything. You don't get to see scratch marks and you don't get to see survivors. Literally every time you go to use your power, it's a blind bet, and you have to go entirely off of sound, which, is very difficult to do if a survivor isn't injured. Let me remind you that during the startup of the power, it's a giant green orb which will let you see which direction it's going, while again, Knight can't see you. If we compare this to the Spirit, she can at least see scratch marks while she's phasing, and survivors don't get to see where she is. Sure, they can hear her, but they can't see her. And then guess what? When she's using her power, she actually moves. So unlike Knight, you don't need to spend 10 seconds playing catch up. Then when you do land your power, you have to wait through 3 separate actions. First, you have to go out and use your power to draw a path. Then you have to wait for the guard to wake up. Then you have to wait for them to detect a survivor and start chasing. It's so much time and effort compared to Spirit's instant reward. But you know what else is an instant reward? Hitting that subscribe button, baby. It's even easier than playing Skull Merchant, so why don't you do it? Anyways, again, compare it to Spirit. You phase onto survivor, you hit them, you're done. All while Knight has to do the same work with 0 info because you, for some reason, get less info than one of the best killers in the game. Like, why? Even if you do get the complete drop on a survivor and they have no clue you dropped a guard on them until it spawns, it still doesn't even mean you get a hit because again, there's so much startup time that survivors have ample time to start running somewhere safe to loop and get back to the standard. Compare this to something like Unknown or Spirit who can quickly appear and get a hit, compared to the Knight who, is 40 meters away every time you use your power. When a guard spawns in and wakes up, their detection ring will expand instead of instantly activating. What this means is that unless the survivor is directly next to the guard when they get deployed, they just don't get detected. If it instantly placed a ring around them like what happens with every other trapping killer in the game, or even if it was just faster, you would be able to have a much more generous window to detect the survivor instead of needing to bring an add-on to use your power properly. Along with that is you can't even be stealthy with the patrol paths because they have a gigantic bright green circle that follows them. So it's not like you can send a guard past a gen and have them run back sneakily and get the hit on them. No, because they have a gigantic green circle which will be seen from a mile away. Or set up a secret guard in shack and a survivor runs in not knowing you already have a path going on, so they get caught off guard. Even Skull Merchant's drones have invisible detection lines when they're in scanning mode, so survivors can run into an area and not even realize that one is there until it's activated. But with the Knight, the guards have gigantic bright green neon signs telling you where they are. I wish I could at least say something like, oh well, the guards aren't that bad, but well, they're not horrible, but it feels like for every 20 times I send out a hunt mid-chase, I get a hit one of those times. And it's usually because the survivor doesn't know how to path properly because, excluding the assassin, they are very slow. Like, if you have any form of haste, you just can't get caught by the guards. If you have hope or made for this, which can activate against the Knight due to the assassin applying deep wound, you just move too fast for them. Sure, you are wasting their time, which Knight is very good at because they're being chased, but a decent survivor knows how to loop in a circle and make it back to the standard, ending the hunt and giving them a free sprint burst. If you want a killer who wastes survivors' time, why not play someone like Twins or Wesker, Singularity, Pinhead, Onryo, etc, etc. I will say, it's super satisfying to spend all this time sending out an orb super far to generator walls invisible and get the drop on survivors, only for it to lead to nothing. Due to how slow they move, you can just hold W or vault one window and you'll have made enough distance to run out the timer or just make it to the standard. Another small issue is that there's no way to cancel your power from a distance. The only way to cancel your power is if you walk up to the guard and manually hit them. So if you mess up with Jailer and don't hit him, well, you're out of a power for 30 seconds. It also used to be that guards got a buff to kicking generators. Originally, when guards kicked a generator, it was 5%, when normally kicking it was only about 2%, meaning that you could use your power to get more generator regression. But after the 3-gen changes they made recently, now everyone kicks at 5%, meaning that this buff is just useless now. It literally doesn't do anything. It's not even making it special like 8% regression or anything, it's just everyone has that 5% baseline now. The most common strategy with Knight is doing one of the most hated things by survivors, and that's just dropping your power in the middle of loop. This is stuff like what Artist or Skull Merchant does, where you just press ability button mid-loop, and the only option survivors really have is leave the loop or they get hit by the power. I can see why survivors hate this type of gameplay because it's, well, pretty boring. It's boring for both sides because instead of being able to use your power to, make a cool patrol path, it's just, oh, you're sitting at pallet, I'll just drop Jailer here. Okay, now we're chasing to another loop again. Now, they have tried mitigating this issue by making it more rewarding to go for longer patrol paths, which is something I like, rewarding the, the quote-unquote intended way of playing this killer by going for long patrol paths and setting up cool paths. I always say it's better for rewarding a different style of play instead of just nerfing the good one, so making it better to go for long patrol paths instead of just M2 at pallet. I like that they did this. And what do? The longer your path is, the faster the guards will start to chase and that you gain haste. Of course, they go with the universal band-aid fix that behavior loves to do, just add haste to something, yay. Sure, this does help to catch up to a survivor faster, but at max distance, you basically stood still for about 5 seconds like you got hit with Decisive Strike, and now you get 5% haste for 10 seconds? It just doesn't really feel rewarding 99% of the time going for an insane path when the counterplay is either hold W or vault one window and you get the standard for free. Then there is, of course, the big elephant in the room, and that's, well, the guards are, AI. That means that it's always a coin flip on how the guards will path to a survivor, on if they'll go in a straight line for a survivor, or if they'll have a stroke trying to pathfind to the survivor who just vaulted a window, and wasting half their duration just going back and forth thinking of what to do. It just never really feels rewarding going for really long patrol paths, like secretly sending your guard to a generator, because they just never hit. I'm just gonna be real, they rarely ever hit in this scenario. That, and even if they do detect the survivor, it's always a coin flip on how the AI will actually function, on if they'll chase properly or just fumble on a window not knowing what to do. And this isn't to say that Knight is completely horrible and boring and he has no tech or anything good going for him, no, not at all. Knight has one of the coolest designs in the whole game and has one of the most unique powers in the whole game, being able to actually summon minions to help you out in a chase. Yes, Nemesis also has his zombies, but they don't really do as much. You can go for cool double tap combos with Knight by having your guard hit someone and then you hit them, basically giving you an instant down. Though the most common tactic for Knight is going for a pincer technique where, your guard goes left, you go right, boom, you hit him. Knight also has a pretty good amount of good add-ons, but sadly because of the numbers in his kit, he's basically forced to always bring these 2 add-ons, or at least always Map of the Realm. Map of the Realm basically always has to be used because, again, instead of the guard's detection radius being instantly deployed in a full circle around them, it goes out slowly outwards, meaning that, by having a bigger radius, it means it technically goes faster and, it will detect them easier. This killer honestly seems so fun and cool, and even as I'm writing this right now, I'm like, man, I kind of want to play Knight right now. But then I load into a match and remember that it's the Knight. So what can be done to buff the Knight? First off is just make it so their detection range deploys instantly instead of expanding. This would fix so many issues and make Map of the Realm not mandatory. Then just make it so he can see scratch marks, because in no universe does Spirit, one of the top 5 best killers in the game, need more info than the Knight, who has to wait through 3 animations before his power starts. There's no universe where Spirit should have more than Knight. Like, come on, man, Knight needs it. And finally, make his guards a tiny bit faster, like I'm talking at most 3% faster or something, because I've literally watched guards be 3 pixels away from a survivor and despawn right as they're about to hit them because they're literally 1% faster than survivors. Of course, Assassin should stay the same since he moves at 110% movement speed, but I'm talking about like Jailer and Carnifex need to be faster. Overall, Knight seems like he would be a great character. He has a stacked kit with tons of cool abilities and good add-ons, but as they say, Jack of all trades, master of none. I don't have anything else to say other than take care of yourselves and have a damn good one. Peace.